So guys, in this video we are going to work on our player die function. But before we are going to do that, last video I forgot to attach the destroyer script to our bullets. So now on enemy bullet, I'm going to add destroy here, and I'm going to put 3 seconds. And then I'm going to our player bullet as well, attach that script, and then I'm going to say, because our player has a faster bullet speed, so I'm going to give it 2. Now the bullet should get destroyed automatic. As you see now, when I make lots of bullets, it's going to delete during the timer. So now let's go and work on our player die function. So let's go to our player controller. In the top, I'm going to write a new variable. Here, public int, and I want to call it lives. And as a default, I'm going to put it 3. Now I'm going to write private bull is dead, and as a default I'm going to set it's false. Now I'm going to access to our sprite as well. So here I'm going to make it private sprite under there, sprite. Now in a start function, I want to get our sprite under there. So here I'm going to say sprite is equal to our get component sprite render. So what else we need? We need a spawn time and also the position. So I'm going here to write private vector 3 start position. As soon as our player going to die, we want after few seconds to spawn our player at start position. And here in the start function, I'm going to say start position is equal transform dot position. So what else we need? We need a spawn time. So here I'm going to use the public float spawn time. So after this time, our player is going to revive, and also we want to give invincibility time, so that if the enemy is exactly where our player should spawn, doesn't get damage again and destroy again. That's why we need to give a spawn time here. So public float, call it invincibility time. So now let's go down and make a function. Here I'm going to make a public void and call that respawn function. And what we want exactly to happen, we want to reduce 1 from our lives. So what's that means? Lives minus minus is that means we can write like that, or we can minus equal 1. Okay, that's also the same result. We can write both of them. When you write, this is the shortcut of minus equal 1 is the shortcut is minus minus. So now next we need to say if the lives is bigger than 0, then here I'm going to call the coroutine, but because still we didn't make that function, I will just write the information, then else. That means if we don't have any health, lives is equal to 0, then is dead is equal to true. And what else we need? We need to disable our sprite. So sprite.enable is equal to false. So now let's go and make that coroutine function. Here I'm going to call enumerator, call spawning. And what exactly we want to happen in this function, I'm going to call it big S. We want first to say is dead is equal to true. So our player is dead. Then sprite.enable is equal to false. Then we want to make a fire level to 0 so that we cannot shot any more bullet because it's dead. And next things we want put the game object layer to I'm going to check it. Let's go to our layer. You see that enemy is the layer 8. We want from the layer 6, that is our player, we want to change it to enemy layer so that we don't get damage from the enemy during the spawn point. So I'm going to put the layer at 8. So that means the player become an enemy for a few seconds and he cannot get any damage. Then after that we want to use the yield return, then new wait for seconds, going to call that spawn time that we are going to give. So after this spawn time, after this delay, so we want this function is happening. First, is dead is equal to false. That means now we call that function to become a false. That means we are live again. Then we want to transform that position is equal to our start position. So the position should be a start position. And the next, so now here I'm going to use the for loop. And what we want to write, we want a float, I is equal to 0. And after that, we want to say if as long as our I is less than our invincibility time, and we want to add I plus equal to 0.1 second to it. And what should happen during this time, during this loop? We want to make the sprite enable, disable, like the old games. Most of the old games, the function of the respawn was like that. So sprite dot enabled is equal to not sprite enable. So we are going to enable and disable again, enable, disable again, until we reach to our end of invincibility time. Then after that, so we want yield return new wait for seconds, and that is our 0.1 f. So after the loop is finished, we want game object dot layer back to our player level. That was number 6. Okay. Then also we want to enable the our sprite that enabled is equal to false, is true, is true, not false. So now let's go to there and call that function here, start coroutine, and the coroutine that we want to call, the name of our coroutine is our spawning. Now let's save it and going back to our do damage function. Or actually we need to go to live controller, because here where our player health is going down. So here if the health is becoming less than or equal 0 and it is our player, then we want to call that function. So here get component, that is our player controller, and we want to get that function respawn. So now let's save it and check it. So here we have a spawn time of 1 and invincibility time at 2. So let's play and see how is it. As you see, when I'm going to die and I'm going to spawn, and wherever I die, I'm going to spawn at this position. But right now we cannot even shoot because we didn't call that function. Let's go in our player controller. Here we make fire level to 0. I'm going to call the fire level to be 1 as well. And now I can shoot as well. So now in the next part, we are going to work on the UI function. So last test, everything is okay. Okay. In the UI function so each time our player is going to die, reduce one, so we can see in UI that the lives is get reduced. As you see now here, we can just see here. So here the lives become a 2. See? Okay. So now, see you in the next video. But before we are going to the next video, I want to explain a little bit of more about my code. So guys, here I wrote some information. And here we have the lives minus minus. That means we reduced 1 from the lives after each test. Okay. Then we are going to call that coroutine that we made, and as long as our lives is above 0. When we reach to 0, then we want to make, for example, a game over scene that we died, we need to respawn again from the beginning or going back to main menu. Then let's go back to our spawning coroutine. So in this coroutine, first we want to say our bool function is dead is equal true. Means this value is true, and then we want to disable our sprite of our player. After that, we want to make the fire level to 0 because we don't want to shoot at enemy when we are died and we are not exist in the scene for a timer, for that timer. So then we want to make the game object layer to 8 so we don't get any damage from the enemy again until the invincibility time is finished. Then we want to make a delay. That delay is our spawn time delay. So after this time is finished, we want to make that bool again to be false. Then we want to spawn our player at start position. Okay. Then we want to make a loop time, and during the invincibility time, we want to this code is calling. That means we loop through until we reach the end of our invincibility time. That means we start from 0 and then we want to add 0.1 second to that. And after this loop time is finished, that means during this loop time, we are going to turn on and off the sprite every 0.1 second. Then we want put back the game object layer, the player layer to 6, so that it is now again the player and not enemy. So he can now attack to enemies and destroy them. Then we want also activate the sprite, and we want to put back the fire level to 1, so that if, for example, he's at level 3, the fire level is level 3, he will going to lose that bonus, and it's going back to level 1 as a penalty. So now let's save it. I think that's all I could explain to you. In our live controller, as you see, we are going to get the component from our player controller and call that function when our player is going to die. This is the die function here. So now see you in the next video.